It's amazing how often, whether in business or in personal life, we do things, or rather, we forget to do things that we know that we ought to do. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this today, and why I remember this in particular, is because at yesterday's recording, while I was talking about why it's important to keep in touch with your past wedding clients and the kind of adventures and opportunities that that brings, well, it just occurred to me that there are more lessons that can be learned from that episode which I could share upon, and that's the reason why I'm making this recording today. Because I talk on this podcast and over on the Instagram handle, I talk and write a lot. I do a lot of espousing over how we ought to qualify before going into our presentations. Now, the idea of qualifying is to make sure that you're speaking to the right person, you understand the need, that there's a match, you guys are aligned on budgetary expectations, all that good stuff. And that it's absolutely important that you qualify properly. Be sure that you're speaking to the right person, that there's a fit before you go ahead and make your presentation and you guys start talking money, before you guys start talking price. Now, even though this is something that I know and it's a gospel that I've been preaching for over a year and a half and over 200 episodes since we've got this podcast up and running, it's still a mistake that I run into myself because I don't fully qualify. I just ask a few questions. It looks like I hit a home run, and then I just go ahead and start making my presentation. I basically just vomit all over the person, saying everything that I think needs to be said to close the deal. Now, I know that this is not something that is unique to me because a lot of us do it. I guess the wonder is why those of us who know different still who still end up making the same mistake. Anyway, so I'll stop with the self-flagellation and share the details about what happened exactly. So you remember from the previous recording yesterday that some of my past wedding clients are going into telemedicine now, and the groom, who is calling the shots, he wanted me to have a meeting with some of his COO, the Chief Operations Officer. I think that's what COO means. Yeah, Chief Operations Officer. So he wanted me to have a meeting with the COO, and then we'll toss around some ideas. We'll do a debrief of what their sales strategy is and stuff like that, and just give some ideas about how they can move forward. Now, heading into the meeting, of course, I came well equipped with the questions that I wanted to ask because I needed to understand the state of regulation in the industry, who the actors are, what they met, what the value proposition is for the end client, whether they're going to be able to work with other actors in the medical industry. Because, all of these things are important before we can come up with a plan for how it is that they're going to engage the market to start getting people to sign up on their app. So I had all those questions in hand, and I went in there, pleasantries, introduction, the usual. Oh, you went to CKC? Yeah, I went to CKC to what set? Oh, okay, yeah, I was DSP, you were this, all that friendly jazz. So, so side talk out of the way, we get into the question sessions, and it was only after the meeting was done that I realized that there was something key that I forgot to tap into, and that is at the beginning of the meeting, asking questions to gauge what the level of expectations are about the purpose of the meeting, and even me stating upfront at the beginning of the meeting what the agenda was. Because if you head straight into a meeting without saying, okay, thanks for taking this meeting, I'm hoping that we're going to be able to achieve 1, 2, 3, and 4. Understandably so, at the end of the meeting, you might have one or more parties confused or not quite clear on what it was that we achieved at this meeting and why. And that would only be the case if you didn't come in and gauge the level of expectations in the first place. So like, oh, hello, Mr. So-and-so. Thank you very much for taking the meeting. Before we continue, I'd like to find out what are your expectations for this meeting? What are you hoping that we can achieve? So they might say something, and if that blends with what it is that you had in mind, then that's fine. Then you say, okay, that's good. I'm glad we're in agreement because I was also hoping that we'll be able to establish 1, 2, 3, 4 by the end of the meeting, and then you know that you're good to go. But then again, the person might say something else, and you will say, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that that is what it was that you had in mind." In that case, this meeting, it might be best if we don't hold this meeting because if this and this and this are what you want to get out of it, then I probably am not the best man for the job. Now, the reason why I realized that I didn't do a good job of setting the agenda and qualifying on expectations when we started was because the meeting started off with the COO being really enthusiastic and keyed in, like, "Oh, we're glad that you're here. We've been expecting. In fact, the first time that was supposed to set it up, it didn't, and the meeting didn't pull through. I actually was disappointed. So I'm glad that you're free and that you're finally here, and now we can begin." So that would have been the point to say, "Oh, okay, thanks. It looks like, okay, let me just say Mr. X, because I don't want to reveal the guy's name who set up the meeting." So I'll say, "Okay, looks like Mr. X has spoken highly about me. What did he say in particular? We'll vibe around that." And then the next set of questions would be, "Okay, so you're looking forward to us starting. When you say starting, what does that mean exactly? Like, what did you think we set this meeting up for? And what is it that you hope to get out of this meeting?" So I know I'm not being very eloquent around this issue, but the thing is, you can find your own particular questions for setting up the agenda and understanding frameworks before you begin a meeting. Now, this is absolutely essential for those of us in the wedding space, and it doesn't matter whether you're having this conversation like I was in a business to business context where you're not talking about weddings and you're looking about how a tech startup can drive subscriptions and gain followers and gain growth and things of that nature. So if you are a wedding planner, and I guess wedding planners would be able to relate, it's something that you have to do quite early from the beginning. So if you get there and the bride is all flustered and she's happy and like, "Oh, finally I get to meet Kemi of ABC Wedding Planning Services. Oh, I'm so excited. I've heard so much about you." The chances are the average person will get high on all this praise and adulation and just go straight into the presentation about why Kemi Wedding Planning of XYZ company is actually the best outfit to go, and go ahead, pick me. So you go in there, there's all that praise, there seems to be all that excitement. You need to gauge why the excitement, what the expectations are. Like, "Oh, so you've heard a lot about me. Hope you've heard good stuff." I said, "Oh yes, I've heard lots of stuff. In fact, it's not just what I heard from my friend Chineye, but I saw on Instagram, and that thing you did, that part was absolutely amazing. This was very, very good. Maybe this one could have been done better." And so the bride says that, and then you have room to start asking questions from there, like, "Oh, okay, you thought this was amazing. So is that the kind of thing you were hoping that we were going to try for at your own wedding?" And, on and on and on and on and on. And you start taking questions from there on out. So it's not just a matter that you show up and there seems to be this enthusiasm and excitement, and then you don't go into asking questions about what the expectations are, what people hope to get out of this meeting, because they're really important for you to know how you're going to craft your sales message throughout the conversation. But they're also absolutely important for both of you to figure out whether you're worth having this conversation, whether worth having this meeting at all or not. So, okay, I'll just bring it to a close here because I've gone close to the 10-minute mark. Perhaps I'm not speaking eloquently about this topic because I'm still, what will I say, still acutely close to this failure or to this mishap. Okay, it's not a failure because in everything that we do, we learn. So I didn't handle a sales conversation properly. So I guess using failure will be too strong a word. So I guess I'm still too closely connected to the situation to be able to speak about it dispassionately and give you guys, what will I say, the truths or the lowdown about how we're supposed to carry on with our sales conversations. So maybe this is something I'll tackle again in another day. But bottom line is, when you're getting ready for that meeting, whether it's a wedding context or not, but for now, let's assume it's a wedding context, you're meeting with that bride, and meeting with the groom, or you're meeting with members of the groom's family or members of the bride's family, however that meeting is going to pass out. From the beginning, ask questions about the expectations. You need to know what it is that they have in mind, what they're hoping to get out of this conversation. You need to know from the beginning whether you are going to be able to help. And if they have some very strong expectations and if they have some strong expectations at the beginning, you need to know that so that you can so you can craft your agenda accordingly and make sure you guys have a very spirited, very direct, and very straight to the point conversation so you can get the ball rolling. Oh yeah, so I guess on a side note, that is one thing that we wedding people ought to work on, because we're famous for having meetings with our clients that last 1 hour, 2 hours. I've even heard of a 3 hour meeting. People have a lot of time and a lot of things to attend to on their hand. So yeah, that's something that we need to work on. Let's see how we can make our meetings straight to the point and crisp and fun with clear outcomes for everyone at the end of the day. So thank you very much, guys, for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja-based event and wedding photographer Tavishima Ayede. Thanks for your time and attention. I'm going to be out of here in a few minutes because the meeting that I referred to 3 or 4 days ago, the photographer's birthday / business seminar, is going to be on at 10, and I'm going to be speaking there with some other panelists. So yeah, I have to go get ready for that. And I will share all the good stuff that will come out of that on future episodes, whether they are directly related to wedding practice or not. Since I'm going to be hanging out with other photographers and makeup artists, I'm sure that any business tidbits that we discuss will be relevant for us one way or another. So whatever it is that we discuss, sales, marketing, branding, even if it's topics that I don't like, I'll still come back and share with you guys. So thank you very much for your time and attention. I'll catch you guys on the next episode.